football. Nice. That's what Maryland does.
That's exactly right. I couldn't have said it better myself. There are two things that are close to everybody's heart here in Maryland: crab cakes and football. I'm Dino with Maryland Housing and Lifestyle, and I can't wait to get into this topic with you. Now, of course, Maryland is a place that's known for a ton of things. It's known for things like Old Bay seasoning. Now, that's just one that people know all over the place from right here in Baltimore. You also have Under Armour. Most of you people have this in your closet right now. That's right out of Baltimore. Maryland is also a place that's rich in history. You can go all the way back to the 1600s when Cecilius Calvert was given the first colony of Maryland right here. You can go back to all the different battles in the Revolutionary War, the War of 1812, the Civil War. You had all them battles that were fought right here. You also have here in Maryland beautiful beaches on the East Coast, big mountains on the West Coast. You have cities like Baltimore that are right here. And then you have rural farmland in places like Frederick, Queen Anne's, and Carroll County. So I could go on for days about the things that make Maryland special. But today, I'm here to talk about two things: crab cakes and football. And I can tell you, people from Maryland are passionate about both. Now, Maryland has great sports teams and extremely passionate sports fans. So when you think about sports here in Maryland, you think about the Baltimore Ravens, you're going to think about the Baltimore Orioles. But a little fact about sports here in Maryland: people here root for the teams in D.C. as well. D.C. is just situated right in the middle of Maryland. It's just basically a part of Maryland. So people root for those teams as well. So in the NHL, you have teams like the Washington Capitals. In the NBA, you have the Washington Wizards. And in the NFL, you have the Washington Commanders. And the Commanders right now, they're marching their way hopefully to a Super Bowl. Now, most diehard Ravens fans like myself, they don't root for the Washington Redskins, but now that we're out of it, you got to root for somebody. So I hope the people from Maryland have something to celebrate at the end of this year. But when we talk about football, let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I want to give you a little unique history about football here in Baltimore. When I was a kid, there was absolutely no football team here in Maryland. We didn't have a team. I grew up teamless. We didn't root for the Washington Redskins. So when I was a kid, I actually rooted for the Miami Dolphins. Now you might say, why a kid from Baltimore root for the Miami Dolphins? It doesn't make any sense. Well, let me explain. I like Dan Marino a lot. I thought he was a great quarterback even when I was a youngster. And I loved the colors of the Miami Dolphins. This is going to show how old I am, but back in the day, everybody wanted a starter jacket. A starter jacket was a nice winter jacket that'll keep you warm, and all the different sports teams were on them, for those of you who don't know. And I love the colors of the Miami Dolphins, so I had to get my Miami Dolphins starter jacket. But that was what we did back then. Now we actually have a team, so you can actually rep stuff. But here's how it was all broken down. Back in 1953, we had a team called the Colts. And we had that team from 1953 to 1983. And it was a great franchise. But in the middle of the night in 1983, the team packed up, loaded up on these Mayflower trucks, and decided to leave town. And they went directly to Indianapolis to start a franchise there and leave the fans of Baltimore with nothing. And we were very bitter for a long, long time about not having a franchise. We had to wait 13 years until 1996 when Art Modell decided he was going to take the Cleveland Browns and move them here to Baltimore. Now, since 1996, since we've had a team, we've won 2 Super Bowls, which is awesome in that time frame. But we've also had one of the best teams in the NFL for at least a decade. We have a great core of players. We have a great team right now. But this year turned into absolute heartbreak. We had a great team. We were doing well. All the analysts were saying this is the best team in football. We had Lamar Jackson doing things that no one had ever seen before. He was the top rushing quarterback in the league. He was the top passing quarterback in the league. It was amazing. We had a guy like Derrick Henry rush for over 1,900 yards this season. It's unbelievable. It looked like we were headed to the Super Bowl. We won our first wild card playoff game with ease. And then we had to make the trip to Buffalo. And when we had to go to Buffalo, we ran into a very, very good football team. But we made mistakes in this game that we haven't made all year. Look at these two fumbles.
2nd and 10. Awkwardness as Jackson wrapped up. The ball's out. Scooped up. Von Miller. Von Miller with Hill chasing after him. Hill tries to swipe the ball out of his hands, but Miller holds on. Fake to Henry. Jackson throws. Got a man wide open. It's Andrews. They dropped the ball, and it's recovered by Bernard.
And then what makes this even worse is right at the end of the game, we have a chance to win. Lamar goes and drives all the way down the field, brings us within 2 points to scores 25-27, and it's time for the 2-point conversion. And he throws this pass to Mark Andrews in the corner that would have made it 27-27 with about a minute and a half left in the game. But as you can see right here, it wasn't meant to be.
Roll, flip it, got it. Oh, the ball was dropped. He had the 2-point conversion in his hands. Andrews did not hold on.
Now, I refuse to bang on Mark Andrews at all because I'm from here. I'm from Baltimore. I know he does a good job. He's been shorthanded. He's been one of our best guys for years. It's kind of like when Justin Tucker was missing field goals earlier this year. Could Baltimore fans really turn their back on the GOAT? He missed a couple field goals and extra points? Of course not. You remember what the guy's all about. One bad game doesn't make a whole career. So we're not going to bang on Mark Andrews, just like Lamar Jackson refused to bang on Mark Andrews after the game. But he did show his frustration. Check this out right here.
So it's a team effort out there. You know, he's been busting his behind, he making plays happen out there on that field for us. Came up short. And like I've been saying all season, every time we in situations like this, turnovers play a factor. Penalties play a factor. Tonight, with the turnovers, we can't have that shit, you know? And that's why we lost the game, because as you can see, we moving the ball wonderfully. It's hold on to the fucking ball. I'm sorry for my language, but this shit annoying. I'm tired of this shit, man.
Now, we've talked about all the heartbreak that this season's created. You know, Maryland people absolutely love their football, and this was crushing for them. But there's one thing that I can think of right now that can make anything better: crab cakes. Now, of course, the state's known for the blue crab. People from all over the world know about Maryland crabs, Maryland steamed crabs with Old Bay on them. This is something that honestly is a staple of Maryland, and people from all over the place come to try. But there's one thing that Maryland does better than anybody else. There's one thing that they do with the crab that no one else can seem to get right, and that's a crab cake. We make a real crab cake here in Maryland. I have made the mistake of ordering a crab cake while being out of state, and I can tell you, even if you order a crab cake from a really nice restaurant, it's not going to be the same, and you're not going to be satisfied with it if you happen to be from Maryland. People from Maryland know exactly what I'm talking about. We make a real crab cake. So now I want to take you into some of the best spots you can go to get a crab cake here in Maryland. The first spot that I'm going to talk about is the greatest blend of crab cakes and football that you're ever going to see. Jimmy's Seafood here in Baltimore, they have one of the best crab cakes that you're going to get anywhere. They do something a little bit different. They'll ship the crab cakes nationwide. So anybody who's watching this that's not in Maryland that would really like to try a real crab cake, you can hit Jimmy's up and they'll send them right to your front door. But why do I say that Jimmy's is a great blend between crab cakes in football, they've set something up over there that is wild. They have one of the biggest tailgate operations for football games in the entire NFL and in the entire country. They call it the tailgate. And they basically set up, they'll go to your city. They were in Buffalo this past week with 5 buses of people for a huge tailgate. So they go all over the place, and it's really cool the way they do it. Now, if you want to learn how to make their crab cake, they've honestly told you. It's right on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. You can check that episode out. These guys are awesome. I'm grateful to know both owners are great people. Now, the next place on the list, let's talk about Coco's. Coco's is in Baltimore City. And for my whole life, I kept hearing people talking about Coco's has the best crab cake. Coco's has the best crab cake. I went to high school literally 1.5 miles, 2 miles away from Coco's, and I had never tried it. And I finally tried one this past year. And now I understand why everybody says that they're the best. These things are very good, okay? I've had a lot of great crab cakes, and I couldn't tell you which one was the best, but Coco's is big. It's got big lumps in it, and it's flavorful. I'm telling you, these things are like baseballs over there. They're incredible. So Coco's is a spot that you want to try out if you're in Baltimore City, okay? Another great spot is Papa's. Papa's gives you one of the biggest crab cakes you're ever going to see. They don't have a ton of filler in them at all, and they're consistent. They're right around where my mother lives in Baltimore County. There's one of them, and I love going and picking up a crab cake or two. They're huge. They're always delicious. So I recommend this place for anybody that's sitting around the Baltimore County area to go check them out. Now let's talk about another place that if you go look at reviews, I looked up all types of reviews. Where's the best crab cake? Where's the best crab cake over here and there? And a place consistently pops up, G&M Restaurant in Lithicum Heights. If you're around this area, you got to check it out because they do the crab cake right. Once again, this is a place that does it the way it's supposed to be done. Big lumps, very little filler. I mean, it's a serious crab cake over here. When you look at them, right in the pictures, you can tell right off the bat, that's not your average crab cake. And when I went there, the picture didn't do them justice. They are absolutely delicious. So if you're in that Glen Burnie, Lithicum Heights area, you want to go check them out. Now, if you're headed down the ocean, you got to try out the Crab Cake Factory. This is a place that's consistent every time. I like to go to the beach at least once a year. And when you go, you got to get some crab cakes. Of course, for me, I always like to do steamed crabs one night. And I like to get crab cakes whenever you go out with your family to dinner sometimes. And the Crab Cake Factory has the best one at the beach, in my opinion. So if you're down Ocean City, go check them out. I really think you'll enjoy it. Now, the last place that I want to talk about is in Annapolis. If you happen to be down by the water in Annapolis, you want to check out the Boatyard Bar and Grill. This place is a really cool spot. It's got all types of nautical stuff there. It's real close to the water, and it's right in the heart of Annapolis. But the thing I want to talk about this place was the crab cake. I went in there, wanted to check it out, and I was surprised at how good it was, just like the other places on this list. We're talking about jumbo lump crab. We're talking about very little filler, and we're talking about a delicious crab cake that makes the crab the star of the show. So if you're in the state capital of Annapolis, please go check this place out. But finally, I want to talk about the hack of a lifetime, the absolute hack of a lifetime. My sister Alicia figured it out. She figured out how to make a restaurant-style crab cake. I'm talking restaurant quality, restaurant size. These things are a 10 out of 10 every time she makes them. Now, I come from a family that cooks and cooks and cooks. I grew up in the restaurant business. My father was in the restaurant business my whole life. We know about food, and my sister has worked on perfecting it, and she's made a crab cake that I would say is as good as any of the places that I mentioned. The hack is it's a little bit cheaper than going out and spending $50, $60 for 2 crab cakes at the restaurant. However, it's not cheap. Even to make them at home, with the prices of crab meat being what they are, if you're truly buying jumbo lump crab meat, it's about $50, $60 a container. So my sister, to make about 10 decent-sized crab cakes, spends about $110 on crab meat, but it's still cheaper than going to the restaurant. So when it's party time and we got a whole bunch of people coming over, a big family dinner, my sister Alicia will get the crab cakes going. And I got to tell you, I feel extremely blessed to have a sister that knows how to cook them up the way that she does. I hope that you guys have enjoyed the info on the crab cakes, on what's going on with football, but I want to ask a favor. If you have better crab spots here in Maryland that I didn't mention, you think there's a better crab cake that I didn't mention, please drop it in the comment. I'd love to know which spots you think are the best. I want to thank you again for taking a minute to listen. I'm Dino with Maryland Housing and Lifestyle. I really look forward to talking to you the next time. See you later.